I was just the cleaning lady who stayed late. They said I didn't belong at the company gala. But when the handsome CEO crossed the room and embraced me in front of everyone, my whole world changed. This is how a simple hello turned into forever. Have you ever felt invisible? Like you were looking at life through a window, never allowed inside? This is for anyone who's been told they don't belong. Watch until the end to see how one moment of genuine connection changed everything. My alarm goes off at 4:30 a.m., hours before the sun even thinks about rising. I'm Eden, 28 years old, and invisible to most people at Horizon Tech. I pull on my gray uniform, twist my hair into a practical bun, and head out into the quiet morning darkness. The bus is nearly empty this time of day, just me and the other early risers, the ones who make the city function before everyone else wakes up. I unlock the side entrance to the gleaming glass tower at 5:15 a.m. For the next 2 hours, it's just me in the building. I'd like to imagine we have a relationship, this tower and I. I know all its secrets, which conference room has a loose tile, which executive leaves coffee rings, despite the coasters I set out every day, which bathroom stall always needs extra attention. I move through the silent halls with my cart, removing yesterday's forgotten coffee cups and straightening chairs before the important people arrive. By 7:30, I've retreated to the edges as they begin to flow in. Designers with their colorful outfits and wild ideas, developers with dark circled eyes and energy drinks, executives in suits that cost more than my monthly rent. I watch them from the corner of my eye as I polish the glass walls of Conference Room B. Sometimes I catch fragments of their conversations about code architecture or market penetration, and I understand more than they'd ever guess. 3 years of computer science at State University before Dad got sick. That's what I think about sometimes as I empty their trash cans. Mom couldn't handle the hospital bills alone, so I dropped out to work full time. Just temporary, we all said. That was 6 years ago. Dad's gone now, and those student loans still need paying, even without the degree to show for them. Last Tuesday changed everything. I was finishing up the executive floor when the CFO and her team rushed into the strategy room where I was cleaning. They barely glanced at me, deep in conversation about quarterly projections. I continued wiping down the whiteboard, my movements slow and methodical, trying to be invisible as always. But the notes they'd left, their growth strategy, had a major flaw. The Asian market expansion numbers didn't account for the new trade regulations. Without thinking, I cleared my throat. Excuse me, but those projections might be off. The new regulations from last month would cut those numbers by almost 40%. The silence was immediate and crushing. 6 pairs of eyes turned to stare at me. The woman in gray with a cleaning cloth in her hand. The CFO, Patricia, looked me up and down, her perfectly sculpted eyebrow arching high. And you are... Her voice was cold. Eden. I clean this floor, I answered, my voice smaller than I wanted it to be. A man in an expensive navy suit scoffed. I think you've confused your role here. This meeting is for people who actually belong in it. Perhaps focus on the garbage instead of our business strategy. I mumbled an apology, my cheeks burning as I quickly gathered my supplies and left. But as I pulled the door closed, I heard Patricia ask someone to double-check the Asian market numbers. That night at home, in my tiny studio apartment, I searched online and found the news confirming the regulation changes. I was right, but it didn't matter. To them, I'll always be just the cleaning lady. Every morning since, I still arrive at 4:30 a.m. I still polish their glass walls until they shine. But something has shifted inside me, a spark of anger or maybe determination. I watch them through the transparent barriers I maintain so carefully, wondering if anyone will ever see through my invisible uniform to the person underneath. I tell myself I meant for more than this, even as I struggle to believe it. Maybe someday, someone will actually see me. The annual Horizon Tech Gala is their biggest event of the year, a night where the company celebrates its achievements, and everyone dresses up to impress each other. Everyone except the cleaning staff, that is. We get extra shifts to transform the office atrium into something magical, then make ourselves scarce before the beautiful people arrive. I volunteered for the setup and late-night cleanup. The overtime pay would help with next month's rent. By 4 p.m., the atrium was unrecognizable. Crystal chandeliers hung where fluorescent lights usually buzzed. White roses and blue hydrangeas spilled from tall glass vases. The cleaning crew and I exchanged glances, silently acknowledging that none of us would ever attend an event like this as guests. "You've got until 6 p.m. to finish," the event coordinator told us, "then disappear before the executives start arriving." I nodded, already invisible. By 5:45, the other cleaners had left. I was making a final sweep, adjusting a centerpiece that seemed slightly off-center, when something caught my attention. A small string of lights behind one of the ice sculptures wasn't working. The perfectionist in me couldn't leave it that way. I'd fix it quickly and slip out through the service entrance. I was on my tiptoes, reaching behind the sculpture, when a voice startled me. "Need some help with that?" I turned to find a man in jeans and a simple button-down shirt, clearly not dressed for the gala yet. He was tall, with kind eyes and the hint of a 5 o'clock shadow. Not one of the polished executives I was used to seeing. "I've got it," I said, stretching further. "Just don't want anyone to notice the dead lights." "I doubt anyone would notice such a small detail," he said, moving closer. "I would," I replied without thinking. He smiled then, a genuine smile that reached his eyes. "I'm Ben." "Eden," I responded, successfully connecting the wire as the lights blinked to life. "There. Perfect." "You work here?" he asked, helping me down from my precarious position. "I clean here," I corrected him. "There's a difference, and I've learned to be clear about it." Ben leaned against the table. "How long have you been with Horizon?" I should have been leaving, but something about his casual manner made me stay. "Almost 3 years now." "What do you think of the place?" There was a genuine curiosity in his voice. I hesitated. No one ever asked for my opinion on anything. "It's interesting. Great ideas happening here. Some wasteful processes, though. And the people—" I trailed off, remembering I was talking to someone who probably worked with those same people. "The people?" he prompted. "They don't see much beyond their screens and spreadsheets," I admitted. "There's a whole ecosystem around them they never notice." For the next 20 minutes we talked, really talked. He asked about my observations on the company culture, laughed at my story about finding the developers asleep under their desks, and listened intently when I mentioned the flawed Asian market strategy that no one wanted to hear from a cleaning lady. "That's actually brilliant insight," Ben said, his expression thoughtful. They should have listened to you. I glanced at my watch and gasped. It's 6:30. The guests will be arriving. I need to go. As if on cue, the elevator doors opened, revealing several executives in formal attire. Patricia, the CFO, who had been in the strategy meeting, stepped out first in a stunning silver gown. Her eyes darted between Ben and me, her expression shifting from surprise to something colder. "There you are," she said to Ben. "Everyone's looking for you. The board members are arriving?" Her gaze slid dismissively over me. The cleaning staff should have cleared out by now. I felt my cheeks flush hot with embarrassment. I was just leaving. Ben started to say something, but I was already moving toward the service hallway, my heart pounding in my chest. As I pushed through the door, I heard Patricia's voice, artificially sweet. "You should change quickly. Your speech is in 30 minutes, sir." It wasn't until I was halfway home on the bus that I realized who Ben must be. Not just any employee. He was Ben Adams, the CEO of Horizon Tech. And I had just spent half an hour chatting with him about everything wrong with his company. I sank lower in my seat, mortified, certain I'd be looking for a new job by morning. The next morning, I arrived at work convinced it would be my last day. Every time a supervisor walked past, I braced myself for the tap on the shoulder, the "we need to talk" conversation. But nothing happened. By lunchtime, my anxiety had morphed into confusion. By the end of the day, I'd convinced myself that Ben Adams had simply forgotten about me, the forgettable cleaning lady in gray. 2 days passed. I was emptying trash bins on the executive floor when I noticed a cluster of people in the glass-walled conference room, the same one where I'd been humiliated for speaking up. I kept my head down, focusing on my cart, when a familiar voice called out, "Eden, can you join us for a moment?" I froze, looking up to see Ben Adams standing in the doorway of the conference room. He was in a suit today, but his smile was the same as it had been at the gala. Everyone in the room turned to stare at me, including Patricia and the Navy suit executive who had dismissed me so coldly. My feet felt leaden as I approached the doorway. "Yes, sir?" "Please, it's just Ben," he said, gesturing me inside. "I was just telling the team about your insight regarding the Asian market regulations." He turned to the group. "Eden was kind enough to point this out last week, but I understand her input wasn't properly considered." Patricia's expression was a carefully constructed mask, but I could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. Navy suit looked like he'd swallowed something unpleasant. "We've adjusted the projections," Patricia said smoothly. "The oversight has been corrected." "Excellent," Ben replied. "And I believe there's something else that needs addressing?" His tone was pleasant but firm as he looked pointedly at Navy suit. The man cleared his throat. "Yes, I may have spoken inappropriately. My apologies. It wasn't sincere, but it didn't need to be. The point had been made. Ben was making it clear that I was to be treated with respect. Eden has agreed to join our monthly strategy meetings going forward," Ben announced, though this was news to me. "She has a unique perspective on our operations that I think will be valuable." The meeting wrapped up quickly after that. As everyone filed out, Ben asked me to stay behind. I stood awkwardly, still holding my trash collection tool, as the last executive left. "I'm sorry about springing that on you," he said once we were alone. "But I meant it. I'd like you to join the strategy meetings. Your insights are valuable." I'm just the cleaning staff, I said, the words automatic. You're observant, intelligent, and you care about this company enough to notice things even our analysts missed. He took a step closer. What did you study? Before this job? I hesitated. Computer science. 3 years of it anyway. Something shifted in his expression. What happened? Life happened, I said simply. Family illness, medical bills, the usual story. Ben nodded slowly. Would you consider coming back tomorrow? Not for cleaning. I'd like to buy you a coffee, talk more about your ideas. My heart was pounding so loudly, I was sure he could hear it. Is that appropriate? Probably not, he admitted with a small smile. But I'm the CEO, so I get to decide what's appropriate? I laughed despite myself. That sounds like a dangerous philosophy. Only sometimes, he said. Then, to my complete shock, he stepped forward and hugged me, right there in the glass conference room where everyone walking by could see. The CEO of Horizon Tech embracing the cleaning lady. Thank you for your honesty the other night, he whispered. It's rare and precious. When he stepped back, I was speechless. Through the glass walls, I could see people staring, whispering. In that moment, I didn't care. Something had awakened in me, a feeling I'd almost forgotten. Worth, possibility, hope. Tomorrow, then, I said, finding my voice. Coffee, he smiled. It's a date. I walked out of that conference room standing taller than I had in years. The whispers followed me down the corridor, but for once I wasn't trying to be invisible. Let them see me. For the first time since I'd started at Horizon, I felt like I belonged there. Not because someone had given me permission, but because I'd claimed the space for myself. Coffee with Ben wasn't at some exclusive cafe where executives networked over $18 lattes. Instead, he took me to a small corner shop 4 blocks from Horizon Tower, the kind of place with mismatched furniture and local art on the walls. He ordered a simple black coffee. I got chai. We sat by the window, autumn sunlight warming our table. I come here to remember what's real, he confessed, watching people walk by outside. The executive bubble can distort your perspective. That first coffee turned into weekly meetings. Professional at first, Ben genuinely valued my observations about Horizon's operations. I started bringing a notebook, jotting down ideas between cleaning shifts. He'd listen intently, asking questions that pushed my thinking further. For the first time in years, I felt my mind reawakening, stretching beyond the limitations I'd accepted. Then one day, as we were discussing a potential app integration, Ben's hand brushed against mine. He paused mid-sentence, our eyes meeting. Something electric passed between us. Neither of us acknowledged it, but something had shifted. The next morning, my supervisor handed me a large package that had been delivered to reception. Inside was a beautiful leather messenger bag filled with tech journals, a new laptop, and a handwritten note. For your ideas. They deserve better than the back of cleaning supply invoices. Ben, I called him, flustered. I can't accept this. It's too much. It's not a gift, he said. It's an investment. Horizon needs your brain, Eden. 2 weeks later, Ben created a new position, Operations Insight Specialist, and offered it to me. Part-time, with flexible hours, so I could go back to school. When I protested that I wasn't qualified, he showed me the presentation he'd made to the board, featuring 3 of my suggestions that had already saved the company thousands. You've earned this, he said firmly. No one is doing you any favors. Our professional relationship was transforming, lines blurring despite our efforts to maintain boundaries. We started meeting on weekends, away from the office. Walks in the park turned into dinners. Conversations about work evolved into sharing childhood stories and future dreams. One rainy evening, as Ben walked me to my bus stop, I finally addressed the elephant in the room. "People are talking," I said quietly, "about us." He stopped walking, rain dripping from his umbrella. "Does that bother you?" "They think I'm sleeping my way up the corporate ladder," I admitted, the words painful to speak aloud. Ben's expression darkened. "Who said that?" "It doesn't matter, but the reality is, you're the CEO and I was the cleaning lady. This ... I gestured between us. "Doesn't happen in real life." "This is real life," he said, stepping closer. "You and me, standing in the rain, having this conversation. That's as real as it gets." He tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. "I know who you are, Eden. I knew who you were when you were adjusting that centerpiece, caring about details no one else would notice. Your job title has nothing to do with why I feel this way about you." Before I could respond, he leaned down and kissed me. Soft at first, hesitant, giving me every chance to pull away. I didn't. Instead, I kissed him back, the rain falling around our shared umbrella, creating a small world just for us. The next morning, a delivery arrived at my apartment. A bouquet of white roses and blue hydrangeas, like the ones from the gala where we'd first met. The card simply read, "Real." B. I took a leave from the cleaning service, focusing on my new role and returning to school. Ben and I tried to keep our relationship private, but in a company built on a glass tower, there are few secrets. We agreed to be professional at work, but outside those walls, we fell deeper into a connection neither of us had expected. For my birthday, Ben surprised me with a weekend getaway to a tiny coastal town. We stayed in a cottage by the sea, walking barefoot on the beach, talking for hours by a driftwood fire. On our last night there, wrapped in blankets on the porch watching the stars, Ben whispered, "I'm falling in love with you." The words scared me, not because I didn't feel the same, I did desperately, but because loving Ben meant believing I deserved him, deserved happiness, deserved a life beyond the limitations I'd accepted for so long. "What if this doesn't work?" I asked, voicing my deepest fear. "What if we're too different?" Ben took my hand, kissing my palm. "What if it does work? What if we're exactly what each other needs? What if this is just the beginning?" Under a canopy of stars, with the sound of waves crashing against the shore, I let myself believe in him, in us, in possibilities I'd long ago stopped imagining for myself. "I love you too," I whispered back. And for the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly seen. Returning to school while working part-time and building a relationship with Ben created the fullest, most challenging months of my life. Some days I'd collapse into bed, too exhausted to even dream. But for the first time, my exhaustion felt purposeful. I was tired from creating a future, not just surviving a present. Ben never tried to make things easier by throwing money at my challenges. When I struggled with a coding project, he didn't hire me a tutor. He sat beside me for hours, both of us frustrated and caffeine-fueled, until we figured it out together. When I insisted on keeping my tiny apartment instead of moving in with him, he respected my need for independence, even as he gradually left enough clothes and books there to claim a drawer and a shelf. "I'm not trying to fix your life," he told me once when I accused him of exactly that during a particularly stressful finals week. I'm just trying to be in it. 6 months into our relationship, Ben invited me to his parents' anniversary dinner. I spent hours agonizing over what to wear, terrified of meeting the people who had raised this extraordinary man. Would they see me as an opportunist? A social climber? Instead, his mother hugged me warmly and whispered, "He's smiling again. Thank you for that." His father, a retired teacher, spent dinner asking about my studies and sharing stories of Ben's childhood mishaps until his son's ears turned pink with embarrassment. As Ben drove us home, I realized I'd been bracing for judgment that never came. "Your family is lovely," I said quietly. "They see what I see in you," he replied, taking my hand across the center console. "And what's that?" His eyes stayed on the road, but his smile was for me alone. Everything. Not everyone was as accepting. At work, I'd occasionally catch snippets of conversation that stopped when I entered a room. Some executives were openly dismissive of my contributions in meetings until Ben would pointedly ask for my opinion. Patricia maintained a frost-edged politeness that never quite thawed. But with each small success, each implemented suggestion, I earned grudging respect. Not as Ben's girlfriend, but as Eden, the person with valuable insights. A year after our first coffee date, I completed my computer science degree. Ben threw a surprise graduation party at our favorite cafe, inviting classmates I'd befriended and the handful of Horizon colleagues who had become allies. My supervisor from the cleaning service came, beaming proudly as if I were her own daughter. That night, Ben gave me 2 gifts. The first was a delicate silver necklace with a pendant shaped like a key. The second was an official offer letter, a full-time position as Horizon's new Director of Operational Innovation, reporting directly to the CTO, not to Ben. "You earned this," he said firmly. "Every bit of it." I knew he meant it. The position had been created based on the success of several major projects I'd spearheaded, saving the company millions in inefficiencies. The board had unanimously approved it. Even Patricia had voted yes. 3 months later, Ben surprised me with tickets to Japan, a 2-week vacation to celebrate my new role and our anniversary. We wandered through ancient temples and neon-lit cities, hiked to remote hot springs, and ate our weight in ramen. In a quiet garden in Kyoto, surrounded by cherry blossoms, Ben knelt on one knee and asked me to marry him. The ring was simple and perfect, just like the yes that followed. Today marks 2 years since that night at the gala, when I was fixing lights behind an ice sculpture. 2 years since a simple "need help with that" changed everything. This morning I walked into Horizon Tower through the front entrance, nodded to Vince, the new head of cleaning services, who I made sure received a substantial raise, and took the elevator to my corner office on the 31st floor. As I was reviewing applications for our new internship program, specifically designed for promising students facing financial hardships, there was a knock at my door. A young woman in a gray uniform stood there, a cleaning cart behind her. "Sorry to disturb you, ma'am," she said nervously. "I can come back later." I smiled, remembering how it felt to be invisible. "Not at all. Come in. What's your name?" "Sophia," she replied, surprised at being acknowledged. "I'm Eden," I said, extending my hand. "It's nice to meet you, Sophia." Her eyes widened slightly as she shook my hand, recognition dawning. Everyone at Horizon knew our story by now, the cleaning lady and the CEO. Some called it a fairy tale. But Ben and I knew better. Fairy tales are about magic, transformations, and rescue. Our story was about seeing each other, truly seeing, when the rest of the world was content to look past. Later that day, in a strategy meeting, I caught Ben watching me from across the table as I presented our new initiative. His eyes held the same warmth they had that first night, a look that still makes my heart skip. In that moment, surrounded by executives nodding at my ideas, my husband smiling proudly from his seat, I realized the most transformative part of our journey. It wasn't that Ben had lifted me from one world into another. It was that together we had created a new world entirely, one where people like Sophia might be seen for their potential rather than their position. One where belonging isn't about fitting in, but about bringing your whole self to the table. One where a simple woman who was once told she didn't belong could find herself exactly where she was meant to be all along.